Welcome back, Junkies on 106.7 The Fan. OAR week here on the show.
Yep.
And we have our two winners. Joe and Chris, I believe, are our winners. They're going to be joining us for the special event this Thursday. OAR at the Clarendon Ballroom, courtesy of Vanguard Records. And they got front of line passes for the Sundress Party, which is coming up August 22nd.
That's a twofer for them.
It's twofer.
Going to see them at the Clarendon Ballroom in just a few days. It's going to be exciting.
You know, it wasn't just so. We've obviously been talking all morning about the Wizards and their addition of Paul Pierce, which I think at the end of the day, I don't think it's a massive deal, but I think it does buttress the loss of Ariza. I think it keeps them sort of in the status quo, kind of in the same position where they were last year. Hopefully, Wall and Beal continue to grow, but that wasn't the only thing. We talked about LeBron, Carmelo back to the Knicks.
Well, everybody saw that coming. He's going to get the most money. He gets the extra year on his deal nobody else could give him.
He also did all the visits.
Yeah.
You know, he went around. I think a lot of people thought that he may have moved on.
Can I add one thing, though, about Paul Pierce?
Yeah.
In the playoffs, you saw a team that at the end of the games still was immature at finishing. And part of that was because John Wall, as good as he's become, isn't a guy that you can just give the ball at the end of the game and say, go get a bucket.
Well, he's
just
taking it to the
not that
basket,
guy.
but he's not going to hit the jumper.
He's not that guy. And in fact, at the end of the games, they tend to give the ball to Bradley Beal, who's still very young. Paul Pierce can still, at age 36, get a bucket if you need it. And Trevor Ariza wasn't that style of player. That's why I think offensively it is an upgrade because he can go out and get it done. Now, maybe he's going to hit the wall. And
I really hope that Paul Pierce is as good as JP's making him out to be. I hope it's not Paul Pierce that's coming here to the Wizards.
Just look at what he did against the Heat in the playoffs.
Oh, you mean losing a series? Well, I mean, they lost. They didn't win.
Did he have Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade at his side?
I mean,
You got to remember.
You're making it sound like it's an unbelievable run. They didn't even win the series.
Listen, I'm not as fervently sort of somewhat against it as Cake seems to be.
I'm not anti-Paul Pierce. JP's making me be anti-Paul Pierce.
I think, you know, you got to remember, it's just not Paul Pierce of 5 years ago.
Right.
It's a diminished Paul Pierce.
Understood. But
even a diminished Paul Pierce, I think is JP's point, can still be a guy late in the game you rely on to take the last second shot.
He can be a contributor. He's not going to be a 20-point a night type of guy. He shouldn't have to be at this point in his career.
I think he's every bit as good as Trevor Ariza, if not better offensively. He has to get a downgrade defensively, but I think at the end of the day, I'd rather have Paul Pierce just for this year.
You know what? I surrender. I wave the white flag. You've beaten me down. Paul Pierce greater than Trevor Ariza. There's no point in arguing any longer.
Defensively. He's not. Defensively, it's a big hit for the team.
I agree with that.
But who cares about defense?
JP doesn't care about defense. I care about defense. It's something that we've needed on this team for 20 years.
It's something the Wizards are finally turning around a little bit.
We got a lot better
You lose your best defensive player.
So, I mean, there's going to be a hit, but maybe somebody else can step. Maybe Otto can play some defense. Even though he's a twig, he's 130 pounds. Maybe Otto can play some defense. I don't know. Who knows? Did Otto look as skinny when you saw him in the summer league?
Still look pretty skinny.
I mean, looks like he maybe added a little weight. Like, I looked at his arms like I was grilling him.
Like last year, he looked seriously ill.
He still looks pretty toothpicky.
Last year, he looked like no disrespect. He looked like a chemo patient. He looked really ill.
He looked spindly.
I'm going to give him
guy.
I'm going to give him a 10-pound increase.
Well, 10 pounds over a 6'9" frame.
All right,
is barely noticeable.
It helps. It helps.
I said it's barely noticeable.
He needs to add another 20 or 30 pounds.
Easily.
Now, Paul Pierce could take his extra 20, give it to Otto.
Or I would gladly give, if I could, I would gladly give Otto Porter 20 pounds.
Paul Pierce lipo and just take the fat and suck it and just put it right in.
Killing Paul Pierce.
Paul Pierce, that's what I would do.
He's had that body this whole career.
Draft should have took him to New Orleans with him.
Yeah, but as you get older,
fatten him up.
Even Al Harrington, who said, look, I'm trying to lose 15, 20 pounds, trying to get lighter
Right,
to try
he's got
to
a trick knee.
prolong my career.
But, I mean, Paul Pierce has pretty much had that body his whole career.
Yeah, well, imagine if he had lost 20 pounds.
He's never been a super athletic guy in terms of, like, jumping and speed.
It can only help. He's a little tubby. He doesn't look silly on the beach.
You should ship him some.
Ship
him some Metafast.
You guys are going to get butt size. He starts training threes.
Of course I will, because he's now a Wizard.
Right.
That was my first tweet was, I guess I got to root for Paul Pierce now.
Shake your head. You're going to shake your head and go, how the hell did he get to the bucket and score 25 tonight?
Hey, if he does that, more power to him.
Listen, just to be clear, I'm on the record as it's okay. It buttresses the loss, if that's a word, of Ariza.
I think it makes him a little bit better.
I think overall it does not make the team better. No way. Overall, at best, it's status
quo.
It's a wash. But my guess is they're going because of the defensive hit, it's going to hurt them.
If Paul Pierce had been on the Wizards roster in the playoffs instead of Trevor Ariza, I think they would have won another game or two. I think they're better.
There's no stat to show JP how good Ariza is on defense. That's why he thinks Paul Pierce is so great.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
Well, there's no stat to prove that Trevor Ariza is so good on defense for you either.
No, I'm saying everyone knows Ariza is good on defense, but you think Paul Pierce is going to be so much better than him because
we're going to know next year.
Focus on points per game.
Look in the first 20 or 30 games, how many points the Wizards are giving up per
Not
night.
just points per game. He's going to draw doubles and kick out to guys for open shots. Trevor Ariza didn't do.
But remember, I mean, Wall's got to
What year
get
is this?
Didn't Trevor Ariza hit 183 pointers last year? I believe he did. That's a lot. That's a lot of tray balls.
How many do you think Paul Pierce hit?
Not as many as Trevor Ariza. I know that. I know that. That I do. I don't know much, but I know Trevor Ariza hit more three-pointers than Paul Pierce.
All right, let's go to
I can't believe I've gotten into this argument with JP.
You know that?
go to Mike in
Pretty
Falls
sure.
Church.
Now it's a pretty
I'm about 97% sure.
What's up, Mike? How are you?
All right, great. So I think something everybody's overlooking is that you're comparing last year Paul Pierce to last year Ariza. Now, there's going to be decline, but I actually think there's going to be more decline with Ariza, and because it was a
because he's
contract
G'd
year.
up and all that. Maybe so.
Yeah, it was a contract year. He's done this every single time throughout his career. He'll, spend a few years launching contested 20-footers, shooting 40%, and, playing good D. But contract year, dials it in, steps back for threes, becomes much more efficient. Guarantee you next season, not going to be the same player.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. The year before, Martell Webster was actually probably getting more significant minutes and time than Ariza.
Trevor
huge
Ariza, by
Martell
the
Webster
way,
guy 2 years ago.
now the president of the Trevor Ariza fan club, he shot better percentage and hit way more three-pointers than the truth, Paul Pierce.
Let's go to Calvin in Fredericksburg.
He
Calvin,
averaged
what's
1
up?
point more per game.
He shot 40% from three-point land.
Okay, Paul Pierce shot 38%.
40% is better than 38%.
I'm not disagreeing there.
Go ahead, my friend. You're on with the Junkies.
Okay, great. I think that Paul Pierce is a definite upgrade. I think that had he been in Washington last year, they would have won that game, too, against Indiana, and they would have gone to the conference championship. Because instead of Wall and Beal chucking up threes at the end of the game, Paul Pierce would have gotten baskets.
I agree.
I think late in games it is a nice. He's definitely a nice piece to have. He's a good closer.
Kate, so you admitted this during the NBA playoffs, and EB to some extent too, that you didn't really watch the NBA playoffs except for the Wizards. If you watch the NBA playoffs, now he wasn't scoring 30 points a game against the Miami Heat, and sometimes you scratch your head, but Paul Pierce has an uncanny ability because you just don't understand how he does it to get buckets. He just does.
I think
Again,
that's his biggest asset is at the end of games.
I hope he's as good as you think he is. I'm praying for that to happen. 'Cause now he's wearing the good guy's uniform. I hope he goes back to 2008 Paul Pierce.
You need to now get a Paul Pierce Wizards jersey. You need to.
I do?
You need to be all in on Pierce.
I guess I do. He's my guy
You
now.
got to get Rob Soler to send you one.
I haven't rooted
stitch
for,
one up real quick.
I haven't rooted for Paul Pierce one day in my life. That's all changing.
So,
Has
Kate,
to change.
Ariza hit 183s, which was definitely more than Paul Pierce. Paul
Yes.
Pierce hit 112. Trevor Ariza shot 2% better from the three-point line.
Right.
They shot basically the same from the field. They both shot 45% from the field.
Paul Pierce is a glacier on defense. Trevor Ariza is not.
True. Okay. Was Trevor Ariza all NBA first team defense? Did I miss that?
No, but he would take their number one guys. He would take their number one threats, and Ariza would neutralize them to the best extent
I'm not
possible.
blown away by Trevor Ariza. And the year before, if you just went a year back, this year Trevor Ariza was really big. If you went a year back,
I'm
you'd be
going to
saying
use the
same
most
thing
recent
about
stats to
Trevor
my
Ariza.
advantage.
Why don't you go
here.
back to Trevor Ariza 2 years ago with the Wizards when Martell was getting more time?
Why would I do that when he's in a non-contract year, JP? That would just be stupid on my part.
I just don't think it's a step back for the Wizards.
I think it's
and I think there's some people who would say,
wash.
"Oh, they lost Ariza. Maybe they're going to struggle to make the playoffs."
I think it's a wash. Although I do think Pierce is going to be he's a great addition late in games. He can get a bucket for you with the game on the line. You got the ball. How many times have we seen the Wizards with the ball with the last possession, and we fumbled, turnover.
Not sure where to go with it.
Yeah,
it's happened a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we've blown so many games. We probably could have 6, 7, 8 more wins if we could close out games better. He is a closer. He is a guy you clear out and you just let Paul figure out. Like Andre Miller, you can't describe it. But when the team needed a basket, Andre Miller would back somebody down.
The old man moves.
With an old man game you'd see at the rack.
Garbage.
And he'd score.
But it worked.
Yep. It's very similar to that. Let's go to Travis in Odenton. Travis, what's up? You're on with the Junkies.
Hey, guys. Good morning.
Hey, Travis.
So, I don't think the difference is between Ariza and Paul Pierce. I think it is more so Patrick Beverly and John Wall. I think John Wall clears out so much space. You got to dictate Ariza's man to John Wall in the paint, but he just kick him out for a wide open jumper. And you can do the same exact thing with Paul Pierce.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Patrick Beverly draws that much attention. We're going to see how good he is, but I don't think he draws that much attention. And I just think Paul Pierce, and he's like third in the league behind two great players with 16 clutch shots in the fourth quarter, which we need.
Right.
So regardless of and one more thing. In the second half of the season last year, the reason the Nets did so well is because Paul Pierce started playing the 4 a lot. So we can use him as a stretch 4, and he can have advantages against power forward, and he still can play him because he's like 300 pounds, but he still knows how to use that 300 pounds well. So I just think that's a good move for us, and that he can do so many different things in the leadership he brings to our locker room.
Yeah.
And also, I think we're about to sign DeJuan Blair, so that's a good thing, too.
A lot of people saying that. I like DeJuan Blair.
It's above my head. But all those analysts, and I know the EB doesn't believe it, all those analysts are saying that the Paul Pierce, the 2 years, the salary cap space, the trade exemption, somehow adds up to making a play for Kevin Durant 2 years.
I'm getting giddy when I just hear it.
I would be thrilled. In fact, I said on Twitter, I would pay part of Durant's salary. Now, it would only be a couple G's, but I'd be willing to do it. I actually thought this to myself. I was driving around. This is if I could guarantee Kevin Durant here in DC for a long-term deal, I think I would stroke him a check for 5 G's.
I'm giving 5 G's too.
Right?
So now, there's 10 G's right there.
He's got 10 G's to come to DC.
So we'd pay for one quarter of one game of his salary.
I'd buy like a couple tickets for some buddies to go to a game. But in other words, I want Kevin Durant to come here. I'm just saying, let's keep it in perspective here, folks. At every opportunity when he's been asked about it publicly, he's way downplayed it and said he likes to play here a couple times a year. It's a lot of stress. It's a lot of drama. He likes being under the radar in OKC. Let's just keep it
Maybe
in
that's because he
perspective.
doesn't want it building to a fever pitch before 2016, EB. Maybe that's what it's all about.
He's been planning it all
the
along.
wheels are turning in his brain.
Maybe.
I need
Wheels
to find
are emotions. And I don't think, and I said this and it's irritated people, I don't care who we have on the team. I don't think you come to DC to win championships. If you come to DC, you're coming to DC typically to get paid or to ride out the string.
Right.
That's typically why you come here. Now, I understand we have some young building blocks, and if you have Wall and Beal and Durant, I do think you become a contender, but it's far from a given. And if he's got no rings at that point, I don't know if this would be the logical spot.
I think the 2016 class beyond Kevin Durant, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So let's say they target Kevin Durant.
You got to target him.
My list is loading. You've got, you know what the list is forever. There are a lot of guys. I mean, you'll see. It's stupid. It's in alphabetical order. So there's a million guys, but there are big-time free agents available coming up in 2016 beyond Kevin Durant.
Not Paul Pierce types. Not guys in the last 2 years.
Like, Goran Dragic. Eric Gordon.
Kevin Love.
Don't need him.
Kevin Love's a free agent. Kyrie Irving.
In 2016.
Al Horford. This must be an old list because Irving got re-upped.
Al Horford. David Lee.
Not
Brook
interested.
Lopez.
No, thanks.
None of them are overwhelming me. KD is by far the sexiest.
I saw JaVale McGee on the list. He's making $12 million. Yeah, and LeBron.
That just makes my head spin.
Well,
JaVale McGee, crazy and lazy, is making $12 million a year. He's making more Chin Gortat money.
How about Jeremy Lin's making 15 this year?
That's just mind-blowing.
All right, coming
NBA
up
money's
next,
dumb money.
I had a week of vacation. I want to tell you something that I did that I know you two donks wouldn't do during my break.
106.7 The Fan.